We're basically Christmas tree farmers now. This is the
Wow.
start of something incredible.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Christmas special, mental health takeaways.
Christmas special. Let's do it. Let's do it. So we're chatting, aren't we? So we said we were going to talk about things that men might find tricky around Christmas time.
Yes, yes. I think it's pretty well known now, isn't it, that it's a hard time of year for a lot of people because there's that dominant narrative that Christmas is a time of joy and celebration and wonderful happiness. But I think society is getting wise enough now to realise, well, that is the dominant narrative, but it's not the narrative for everyone. And actually, it also can be a particularly difficult time for some people. And
Yeah.
we obviously are a mental health podcast. And one of the groups of people that Christmas can be difficult for is people with pre-existing mental health conditions. And then on top of that, we're a men's mental health podcast. And I think we can identify that men with pre-existing mental health conditions, or just men in general, really, can find Christmas difficult. So I think we just wanted to do a little something to say these are the things that people might need to look out for, and that also this is where you can get help if you feel like you might need it.
Yeah. Sounds like a great idea.
Doesn't it just? Doesn't it just? Have you got any starters, Brady?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps to mind, I think, has to be around like the financial pressures, doesn't
Yeah,
it? Because it is tough, and it doesn't matter whether you're part of a family, you're part of a separated family, or you're just kind of out on your own. There are financial pressures that don't go away, and actually people at the minute, they're struggling already, aren't they? Things are quite tricky. It's expensive just to do a normal food shop. And so Christmas can be a challenge for that. And I think it doesn't matter. I think sometimes you see that narrative of these wonderful family Christmases going on. And I think even behind the pictures, we know about social media, and social media, everything looks perfect, doesn't it? But I think behind the pictures, there can often be people that are really worried about, actually, have we overstretched ourselves? Have I got enough stuff? I think can be a burden. I know I've been doing lots of rapping and stuff recently, and I'm like, oh, have I got him enough stuff? And it's weird
Isn't
because
that crazy?
I know, and I'm very
I'm thinking
much
exactly the same tonight. Like I've got,
yeah,
as you know, I've got the kids' presents out ready to wrap. I've got my son's birthday tomorrow, or well, the 22nd. So depending on when the listeners are hearing this, and there's loads of stuff, and I'm looking at it thinking, have I got enough? Have I got enough stuff?
yeah,
Isn't and
and it's
I'm feeling both things at the same time. There's a lot, but is there enough? And I don't know that
yeah,
there is.
yeah. That's it, isn't it? And I think it is just hard because I'm like, yeah, there's plenty of stuff there, but you kind of doubt yourself. And I think people know that our kids we're from separated families, and so there's a little bit of that in your mind. It's like, oh, have I got enough? And is Santa going to bring enough in terms of the stuff that I'm separating out for Santa? And yeah, and it's quite hard, I think, and I think it's a very easy trap to go into, thinking, "Oh, I'll just buy a little bit more. I'll just get a little bit more." When really, fundamentally, for me, I want Bowden to have experiences. Really, like I want
Yeah,
him. I want him. We were talking last year on Christmas Eve. We went to the cinema, which again is expensive, isn't it?
yeah.
But we were like, okay, well, what's out? And I was like, oh well, there's a new Paddington film. Maybe we'll go and watch that. And we watched the trailer. He's like, yeah, cool. And so I am quite keen on giving him lots of experience, and I'm thinking about like taking him ice skating and just different bits like that. But then there is that pressure, isn't there? That there's still got to be those things that, a big part of like little kids is like, it is the presents, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I guess that is a pressure for lots of people, and it's one that I think you need to really be quite strict on, and almost be quite pragmatic in terms of, no, this is the budget, and that's what I'm going to stick to. And yeah, it's not always easy though. It's not always easy.
But also, I think even if it's too late now for a listener hearing this to think, well, I'm a bit fucked. Well, first up, I can promise, guarantee 100% that if you are a diligent parent who's raised their kids in any sort of caring way, and I think if you're the kind of bloke that listens to this podcast, then you probably fall into that category already, then your kids are more likely to appreciate the time with you and just your presence in terms of actual, your physical being in the room and being off school, and that being a memory in itself. I know for us as parents, it's a very different side that we look from, but that's what kids love about Christmas. And there's little magic things. My little boy, it was raining the other night. I hope he doesn't hear this. It was raining the other night, and his bedroom window looks out over to the top of the conservatory. And he came running downstairs telling me that he could hear jingle bells, and he could hear, and he thought that must be Santa getting the reindeer ready, that they must do like test flights. And that's free. That stuff's free. And
Yeah,
that, like, without going over the top and being too Disney about it all. But there's this whole magic of Christmas that is free. Going to look at Christmas lights in town. You might have to pay for parking. If you live anywhere near me, you need to pay a fortune for parking. But if you're prepared to walk a bit further, maybe you don't. But that stuff's free. There's loads of free Christmas stuff that you can do that is just as magical, but it doesn't have to cost money. And like, I always think things like eye contact with your kids, I forget it. I will hold my hands up and admit to, I forget that. But if I step outside of Christmas, which puts me in mind of step into Christmas, but if I step out of the whole occasion and look at it from outside and think, what do my kids really, really want here? They want a connection with you as their parent more than they want any toy. I guarantee any parent listening, they want that. Now, it's probably a bit too late this year if someone's already spent the money, but keep that in mind for next year, but also build towards it with your kids from now for the whole year, for the whole of 2025. Build towards that idea of like connection is important, doing things is important, being together is important, and it's a lot more important than these things that by next Christmas will be forgotten. The toys
that's
that are bought this Christmas will be forgotten by next Christmas. They'll be at the back of the cupboard.
yeah,
So
that's a really
that
good
would be my
point, I
word on
think.
that.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and it is about those experiences, isn't it? And actually, one of the things that I'm looking forward to in terms of a couple of bits that have been bought for Bowden, either from me or grandparents, is actually the fun we're going to have using it and playing
Brilliant.
with it. And so, and I think that's really important. And so the flip side of that, you know, you're talking about somebody who might have already spent a lot of money and be a bit worried about that. If you're the guy who is like, oh God, I don't know if I've got them enough. You have. You have.
Yeah, you have.
What they will remember is the silly games you played. You know, those sorts of things. They're the memories that people hang on to. Because you're right, the toys will come and go, won't they? And you know, they
Yeah.
will be forgotten about. But those experiences that you have together are the important bit. And I think if we were to just really focus on that and have much more emphasis on that, everybody's winning, really. I like your idea. We haven't done it this year, but we'd often just go for a drive, just to look at the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And
Love
there'd
it.
be certain areas, you know, that we could go, and so, or now, like if we're walking the dog, it's you know, look, there's the lights, and it's part of those memories. I mean,
We call it
have you done
hunting.
have you
We go
yeah
hunting for Christmas lights.
have you done Elf on the Shelf with your kids?
No, I can't be asked with that.
Ah, well, their Christmas is ruined already because you're too lazy to do
Yeah.
Elf on the Shelf. But look, I don't know if
Hell
you've
yeah.
noticed. Here's
It-
Elfie's snuck
I
in the
saw him on the
background here.
tree. Yeah.
And
Some
do you
friends of
know,
ours got going with that way before we had kids, and they were like, "This is a rod for our own back that we've made here," and I'm like, I don't need that pressure. So
It,
no,
well,
no elf on the
it
shelf
it
here.
is to a degree because everyone who does it will be able to relate to the thought of you just get into bed and you're nice and comfy, like, oh, I'm just gonna drift off now, and then you're like, the elf,
Fucking
and then
elf.
you got to run downstairs. But the elf. I mean, we've had we've had the elf that comes to us every year for a long time now. So there's no more investment there. But oh my god, like Bode loves it. He loves it. Even on the nights where he's not with me, like when I picked him up, I took him to football today, and he's like, "What's the elf been up to?" And he literally and so I'm like, "Great, now I've got to come up with something when he's not even here, just to tell him what the elf's been doing." Um, but and I was talking to somebody earlier today, like about the magic. It's about the magic of Christmas, and
Totally,
there's
100%.
so little magic now that I think those sorts of things, which yes, it does require a bit of effort, and you can sometimes be like, oh God, what's the elf going to do? Um, but it's free, and oh my God, like it's just I love doing it. I just think it's funny trying to come up with things, and I see loads of stuff online, and I get ideas from online. But he just loves it, and so anything like that, we were talking today, like, not long, and then Santa's come in, and that's the real excitement. And yeah, they get excited about opening presents, don't they? But I think, like you said, if you were giving them your time so willingly, and
That's what they want. I
that's
promise
what
you.
Christmas affords us, isn't it? We don't have to be at work, even if somebody's not, like we've had careers as teachers, so it's nice that you always get that chunk of holiday. But most people get some reasonable time off around Christmas, and and maybe just hold on to that. Maybe it's like actually
Yeah,
the real gift is that actually we're just going to spend some quality time, and I think there is a shift towards that. I think more people are focused on that, but just
I
having
hope
a
so.
nice time as a family, maybe some nice food, some nice walks, watching a film, like just those bits.
I've got a couple of bits to add to all of that. Um, the first being about how our listeners can take control of that, even if they don't feel like they have got control of it. And one of the first ways is to, if Santa is giving your kids presents, make sure that Santa gives your kids affordable presents rather than big extravagant presents. But like, if you want to get your kids big extravagant presents, I really feel as if, fine, get your kids big extravagant presents from you, because if you're getting your kid an Xbox 15 or whatever they're up to now, um, and then the kid next door is getting a spinning top, that kid next door is looking at your kid and thinking, so Santa loves that kid more than he loves me. Like, why is that kid getting a really expensive gift from Santa and I'm getting a cheaper one? But if you adopt that mindset, that works if you've got loads of money or no money. Like,
Mm.
both ways, that works. And if we could kind of establish a bit of a culture of like, yeah, Santa gives like fairly affordable presents that could be given to this kid at this house or the next house or next door or the next one along. I think that's a good thing to do and try to
Yeah.
establish that as a process. Also, it's I find it really hard at Christmas time if you've got a brag, if you've spent a lot of money and you want to show that off on social media, just check yourself for a minute. Just hold on for a minute and think, I know you're probably thinking this is one of the few times I get to show off how generous I've been and how kind I've been and how much I've got for my kid. Just check yourself and ask, hang on, would I be part of the problem if I did this? I often have to remind myself that pride is a sin. Not that I'm Christian, um, but pride and being too proud is not actually a good thing. And being too showy and too ostentatious of like, look at this stuff we've got. So if you get the opportunity to show off all the amazing stuff that your kids have got, or how perfect your Christmas looks in a photograph, maybe just ask yourself the question like, am I helping by posting that and sharing that? Because I think there are there's going to be people that really wouldn't help to see somebody else's really perfect Christmas. And of course, if you find social media doesn't help you, you can turn it off over Christmas and not engage with it. But I just think it would be lovely for there to be a community of people that realise, do you know what? I'm not going to post on Instagram me and my kids having some really quality time together. I'm not going to post the eye contact. I'm not going to post that connection that we get by being together at this time of year. Because A, I want to keep that special for myself, and B, it becomes part of the problem when too many people are screaming on social media, look at my perfect life, look at my perfect life. And then, funny that we were talking about Elf on a Shelf, you just make a rod for your own back if you're trying to project the perfect life out there. And then the instant when you feel like, oh, actually, now I've upped the ante and other people are having to respond to that escalation. And now you look at their version of it and you know your life isn't as good as your photograph of your life. And now you think your life isn't as good as their life because their photograph looks so good. Just, if you can, step out of all of that, because I don't find it is going to be helpful to the wider mental health community. And my last one, in terms of free amazing things, is it's a huge wrestle with my conscience. There is the worst thing within planet Earth, but your kids might find it amazing if you get a chance to see it. So I saw it by accident and I had to go home and Google it. I was walking one night and it's dark up here, there's no light pollution or anything, and there was a string of lights in the sky just like zipping along, and I was awestruck by it. I was like, what the hell is that? And from where I was, it looked like it could be Santa's sleigh with like reindeers pulling Santa's. I'm not making this up, it's totally true. Went home and Googled it, and it's Elon Musk's Starlink satellites, which is a long chain of satellites which perpetually orbit the Earth and have a glow to them. Like, I think it's outrageous that he has been allowed to alter the night sky. I mean, what a fundamental thing that we should be able to connect with uninterrupted and uninterfered with. I think it's horrendous that fucking thing exists, but it looks amazing. So me and the kids have been. You can look it up on Google. You can see the times of when it should be visible from where you are on the planet. We've been out hunting for it a couple of times. We haven't actually managed to see it with the kids yet, but it looks incredible. And of course, going out for a walk in the dark and looking up, and if you get to see it, amazing. But that's free as well, and that's that part of that. You can package it up as Christmas magic, even though it's one of the world's most evil men destroying the night sky of all things that should be sacred.
Let's keep it balanced. I mean, other evil men are available.
Yeah, true. But like, he's a proper baddie. But yeah, for the sake of the kids, I think it's worth engaging in that little bit of magic. So anyway, cool. Finances. Are we covered on finances? You got more?
Yeah, I think let's move on from that. The nuts and bolts is, don't overspend. Spend time. Don't spend money.
Spend time. Look at Brad nailing it down to two words.
Quite good, wasn't it? Literally off the.
That was good. Well done, you.
Off the hoof.
Hoof. Not forgetting you're from Newcastle, and so you say everything wrong.
Right, come on then, big shot. What's your next one?
Right, well, this is more advice than where people might have gone wrong, or could potentially go wrong, and it's a bit of a teaser, because in the episode that's coming up soon with an actual guest, our guest Eddie, he talks about remembering where you've come from. So I'm probably going to turn off a lot of our audience here, because I'm going to talk about specifically where I've come from, and it may well not be applicable to lots of our listeners. But I'm a divorced dad. The kids ask to be at their mum's house on Christmas Eve night and therefore Christmas morning. The rest of it they don't mind, but they want to be there at Christmas Eve night and Christmas Day morning. And it would be possible for that to be like a massive stab in my side of like, I want to wake up with you on Christmas Day morning. I want that magic of being there at that time. Like I'm there the rest of the time. I'm doing homework, I'm doing school runs, I'm dropping PE kit off when it's been forgotten, I'm doing all that. And then I'm like, that might just be the top morning of the year to be like, I want that. And I don't know that I'll ever get it. I think they might always want to be, as long as they believe in the magic of Christmas, I think they might always want to be at their mum's on Christmas Day morning. I have no intention of fighting them and telling them, you can't have what you want. We're doing it this way because Daddy says it's going to be this way. Like, no one wants to do that at Christmas. So they're not going to be here Christmas Day, but I am I get to this time of year and I kind of recap on what have I achieved this year and what have I done. And our guest Eddie said that you need to remember where you've come from to where you are now. And where I've come from is I live in my own house now. I didn't have this house last year. I've bought a house this calendar year. So I won't have the kids here on Christmas Day, but I will have the kids here in my own house over Christmas. Previous to that, I had, whenever I had the kids over Christmas, it was at my mum's house. I've said numerous times she was a saint for putting us up like that, but it wasn't like they were at my house and that all their toys and things that I brought them went back to their mum's house because there was no sense in them keeping their toys at my mum's house.
Yeah.
Because they didn't live there. They would visit every other weekend, and all the other childcare I would do at their mum's house. But now I have this. So I know they're not here on Christmas Day, and yeah, that's a bummer. But look how far I've come. I've got a house that I could have them in, and that I will have them in over Christmas, just not Christmas morning. And then, like, to double down on it, in the past, I don't know if our listeners know about this, but I was in the clinically extremely vulnerable group for COVID. So I have a respiratory condition that put me in that clinically extremely vulnerable group, which meant that I had to be extremely careful of not catching COVID. And one Christmas, I think it was the first Christmas after my ex and I split up, my ex and my son had COVID over Christmas. And so I went up to their house. We had Christmas in their back garden, like out fucking side in December. It was freezing. And the presents were pushed across the outside, like table with a roll of wrapping paper. I'm not shitting you. Like, I couldn't hug my kids on Christmas Day because this was pre-vaccine, so I wasn't able to make myself say, like, just to illustrate, anyone that wasn't in that group, I used to get letters about once every 2 weeks from Matt Hancock, just to remind me, like, not personally, obviously, but they were signed from him, just reminding me, like, if you get this, it'll kill you. So you need to not get this. So that was honestly the level of the messaging that was coming through to me. So there was a Christmas I didn't hug my kids. There was a Christmas that I wasn't even close enough to pass a present. It had to be slid across the table. But I still went to their house and I still wanted to be there and I still wanted to see them on Christmas morning. And when I look at that's where I was and this is where I am now, it just reminds me where I am now is not having the kids on Christmas Day morning, but it's so much better than where I was. And now from a mental health standpoint, I think any fathers, because it is a men's mental health podcast, any fathers that are in that position that you and I have both been in, and maybe you're a couple of years behind Brad and I, or maybe you're still having that wrestle of having access to your kids, that my message to you is for your mental health. It's like you might as well be just facing machine gun fire all the time. It's so hard. It's so arduous. It's like emotionally difficult and draining and saps your strength in every way. Like you and I haven't really got into our backstories too much of how difficult it's possible for that to be. But I totally see um, why it brings men to their knees sometimes. But Brad and I have both been there. We've both been to that place where access to the kids and special occasions have been really hard. But look at where we are now. We're in a much better place now. And I think all we really did was just kept on going, just never really gave up and just ploughed on and on and on. And so if you're in that difficult place now as a listener, just keep going. Just plough
Yeah,
on and on and on, and you will get there. It takes all your resilience and all your toughness, but you can make it in the end. So yeah, that's just advice really for people to think. Either if you're not loving your Christmas, think about, well, how far have you come to get to this Christmas? And if you're not loving your Christmas, look at there's a journey and look at where you
yeah.
could end up. So
Yeah, and I think what that really flags with me is very much linked to hypnotherapy, really, in the way that I encourage people to think about things, because that's potentially a challenging situation. The idea of not seeing your kids on Christmas Day, which
yeah, it's
obviously
huge. There will
before
be dads
separate.
out there that don't.
Yeah, and and before separating, that was something that you always had, and then all of a sudden you haven't got it, and that can feel really, really difficult. But the point that you're making ties into that kind of hypnotherapy kind of thought process and how we change our mindset, because yeah, in an ideal world we would all see our kids on Christmas, and that would be wonderful, but we don't live in an ideal world. And so you've got to make a choice. You have to make a choice about where you are going to place your thoughts in that time. And I say to clients all the time, there are two roads that you can pick. One is the one with positive thought processes, and one is the one with negative thought processes. Whichever one you choose, if that's the scenario, you're still not going to see your kids on Christmas Day. But
Yes.
don't choose the negative mindset about it, because that will be a really, really terrible Christmas. And that's what you're kind of talking about there. One way of framing it is around, okay, well, look at how far I've come. Or I would encourage those people to make sure that they are doing something enjoyable. And that can be tough at Christmas, because you're a little bit less likely to get that extended invitation from friends that you might have before, because actually they're tied up in all their family stuff. So whether there are other members of your family that you can see, it might be that you've got some great friends that are like, yeah, come and do the day with us. But it might be that you are a bit isolated, and I would just try and build in some positive things. And my default would be, again, a bit like you said, kind of just going out for a walk, because you'll see people. I remember long, long, long time ago, when I first moved to the area that I'm back living in now, and I didn't know anybody in the area. And I used to consciously go to the supermarket just because I'd have a chat with the person on the checkout. So it
Yeah.
just felt like I got some social interaction. So on Christmas Day, there will be loads of people out walking about. And I'm quite fortunate because I've got the dog, so we'll have to go out anyway. But it's often really nice, I think, around Christmas time, because you just chat and you say hello to people and you say Merry Christmas. And I enjoy seeing kids playing with their new toys and all of those things. So I'm that none of that is going to make the situation any better, in terms of that. Actually, I'm spending the day without my kids. But you do have a choice about the thoughts that you allow to live in your mind, about the actions that you go and do, and about the potential interactions that you go out and have. And I just think, at the minute, whenever I speak to somebody, whether it be in the supermarket or I was just chatting to somebody, I was in the gym earlier, everyone's kind of leaving. It's, have a good Christmas, Merry Christmas. And so there is that kind of positivity flowing. So I
Yeah.
guess my response would be like, try and find it, and don't sit on your own all day wishing that you had the kids there, and
Yeah.
focus on actually, well, but I'll have the kids then, and when I have the
Yeah.
kids then, we're going to have an awesome day. And whether it's you're going to kind of redo Christmas and have like the kids are going to have a second Christmas, or you're just going to go and do something just for you guys, focus on that. Don't allow your mind to go down this road, because once your mind starts in that direction, it becomes really great at finding all the other shit stuff that might be going on in your
Yeah.
life as well. Whereas when you kind of like, actually, no, I'm actually going to enjoy some time. I'm going to go out. I'm going to have a walk. Maybe it's a dip in the sea, or I'm just going to enjoy some time to myself. I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to watch some films. I'm going to do some stuff that actually I've not had the opportunity to do before. And actually, that stuff can still be quite positive. I think even that I've been on my own the last couple of evenings, and I've enjoyed. I put the chart on, a Radio One chart. Get some Radio One guests on here.
You're
Jack
such a
Saunders.
youngster, Brad.
I am a youngster, young at heart. But I put the chart on, and I was like, yeah, great, cool. Got some music going. The house was nice and warm, and had the Christmas lights on, and I was like, I'm going to wrap some presents, and I was loving it. It was really nice, and I'm not very good at sort of not doing stuff. I like to be busy. I like to be active, and I've had to work quite hard on that this year. But actually, I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't want to do it all the time. Don't get me wrong, but I created the atmosphere that made it nice. And like
Yeah.
tonight,
Okay.
when we finish on here, I'll probably stick a film on or something like that. So it's not all bad. Yes, it's not ideal, but it's not all bad. So do something that you don't normally have time to do. It's where my mind
Yeah.
goes to with that.
Yeah. Good advice. I've got another area that I'd like to discuss, and it ties in with what you just said, but it also ties in with something that was in our last episode with Aaron. And it's the idea of masking. That idea of the face that you present to the outside world being different to the face that is actually your true, authentic face. Because I think at Christmas there's a massive pressure to mask and to show either on social media in the virtual world. Sorry, I bit my lip as I said virtual then. Virtual. Um, so either on social media in the virtual world,
Just spit it out,
or
would
in
you?
or in real life, I think there's a real pressure to be having the best Christmas ever. And that idea of putting on that front is called masking. Now, I'm not going to tell anyone listening to not mask, because I definitely do it. I think you and I have spoken before about how when you work in a mental health industry, you get this perverse pressure to have excellent mental health yourself, because how the hell are you going to teach other people about it? And there's you get that in so few other areas of the world. Like my French teacher at school wasn't French. She didn't have to be French to be a French teacher. Her name was
The
Mrs. Richardson.
the
Like,
fraud.
yeah, I know. Some of the world's best barbers have got no hair. Like, you don't have to be the thing that you're good at. But in the mental health world, I think there is that idea that actually, if you're going to teach about mental health, then you must have impeccable mental health yourself. But we're people just like anyone else. So I think you and I have been guilty of masking a little bit in the past, probably
Yeah,
at some
yeah,
point.
100%.
And Christmas is a massive time, especially that maybe we are in time to catch this wave of the wave of people going back to work after Christmas. And how was your Christmas? And the social expectation to be like, great, how was your Christmas? Way, wasn't it all amazing? Now, I'm not going to say don't do that. What I would say is mega, mega useful is try to, be aware if you are masking, and just know that, like, I kind of said it was great and it wasn't. Just being aware of that is beneficial for our mental health. And then the second thing is, if there's anyone that you can tell, actually I found this bit hard, I found that bit hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be everyone, But if there's a way that you can shed that load of just going, oh, do you know what, man? Actually, I was fucking done with it. By the end of Boxing Day, I'd had enough of it. And that's fine. But, well, if you feel that, feel it, and share that with someone, somewhere, somehow, in whichever capacity you can. If you've got a group of friends, a WhatsApp group, and I don't mean like create a WhatsApp group where everyone just drags each other down. There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
But just being able to share that authenticity of actually, yeah, I have been masking. Yes, there were bits that I didn't love quite as much. Yes, I'd like to just tell you about that. And then once you've shared that, you've shed that weight and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I just think it's really beneficial for people to be aware of that. Go on, brothers.
I've got a live example of this. This is hot off the press. This has just happened. Literally.
Is it exclusive?
It's an exclusive. I was texting just before we came online. So in our group chat, I've got a couple of group chats for different mates because I'm so popular. I need more than one.
Are you masking again?
Yeah, masking, massively masking. But interestingly, and there's been a bit more activity on this particular group chat recently, which is good because actually we're all terrible and no one's put anything on there for ages. And a mate put on there, oh, I'm just gonna have a moan actually. And he's been really poorly, and his body's struggling to get over it, and they're normally like quite active, and so it really brings you down when you're like that. Just gonna have a bit of a moan that I'm really struggling, and the antibiotics aren't doing anything, and I was like, whoa. So straight away, I just off the group chat, and I messaged him just separately. And I was like, oh, mate, sorry that you're having such a tough time of it. Hang in there. So, made a joke. We are now we're a bit older. It does take us a bit longer to shift these things now. Just be patient and enjoy chilling out and watch some films. By the way, what are the, what are your top 3 things that are going on for you at the minute? Which is a known strategy, and it might give away who I'm talking about for our.
I know exactly who you're talking about
for our more tuned in listeners. And he came back to me and he was like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I think it was probably a bit of a cry for help, laughing face." And I'm like, "Well, that's 100% what it was." But I'm so glad that you did, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if you didn't say that, And I just I would have just. I got nothing to do tonight other than this. I could have just sat watching a film, but actually now that I know he's really struggling, I'll be checking in. So, and then he came back to me and he gave me his top 3, and that led on to a conversation about what some of those things were. And it was just great, and that's exactly what you're talking about. It's taking that leap. And however you do it, it doesn't matter, does it? Whether you talk to somebody, whether you drop something into a group chat, just let somebody know. And I know a couple of the other boys have responded on the group chat as well. And so yeah, it just changes things, doesn't it? Because actually, people have got my back, and actually there is some good stuff going on also. So yeah, we all do it, don't we? We all do that masking.
An example of that I've covered on the podcast previously was that as a head of PE, the sports day that we had most recently was the first one where I said, I can't do this all on my own. I need some help. And my school couldn't have been more forthcoming with okay, we'll give you this help, that help, this help, that help. Because it was the first time I hadn't said, yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I'll do all that. Yeah, I'll do that. Because they weren't quite seeing what I was signing myself up for. And actually, when I was sort of working out the timings and stuff, I'm like, right, I'm gonna have to get to school at 4:30 a.m. to start setting this up.
You mean you don't do that normally?
No, I don't. I get there at like 4:45 normally, but I needed an extra 15 minutes that day.
Slacker. I hope your performance manager isn't listening to this episode.
Well, I hope she is. So I did that then, and I stopped masking, and I said, I'm going to need some help to do this. And that if you can do that around Christmas, then it's going to have beneficial impact on your mental health. Because that guy that shared what he shared with you, he's let the mask slip in a trusted group of friends.
Yeah. And
the response to that has been, okay, well then let's talk about that. And we all know that talking about it helps it feel better. And I doubt you've gone round there and actually physically solved the problem for him. Like you haven't re-prescribed him some different antibiotics, I don't presume. I don't think you're quite qualified for that yet. But the talking about it, no doubt, has helped. So yeah,
Yeah.
that we all mask at this time of year, and I tell you what, I'd make that like a two-pronged piece of advice. One, if you are masking, be aware that you're masking and try to find someone that you can tell the truth to. But likewise, when you put the shoe on the other foot, try to notice if other people are masking and see if you can be the person that they feel safe enough to take that mask off in front of.
Yeah.
And to just say, either I got myself in financial difficulty this Christmas, I spent way more money than I should have. I always forget this because it's not such a thing for me, but there will definitely be men out there that at some point over the festive period will have the thought, why have I drank so much over Christmas? Like, it doesn't really appeal to me going out, and like, I went out with friends the other night and I was more than happy to be the designated driver. I had a pint of shandy at the start of the night, so half a pint of ale, and then Coca-Cola for the rest of the night. And then drove home at 2 a.m. tired, but like well below the legal limit. But yeah, there'll definitely be men out there that I'm talking about drink, but drugs as well. Like, it's the party season, so people are going to be partying, and some people feel that pressure to not just be festive in the kind of the ITV version of like everyone's got their Christmas jumpers on and matching pajamas and hugging their kids in front of the fireplace. Some people feel the pressure to like go out and hit it and party really hard. Like, if that's not fun for you, or if you're just feeling that you've been masking that and hiding behind that, yeah, see if you can find someone that you can tell.
Mm.
I haven't been enjoying it as much as I've been making it look like I've been enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's important
I think
stuff.
yeah, it is, and it's almost like back to boundaries there. That last bit you said, it's like actually now I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to. And I also think that asking for help. You said about this sports day example. I think men are really good at that, aren't we? We try and hold on to everything. We want to be seen to be in control. We want to be able to manage everything. And actually, like, yeah, like I do it quite often. I'm like, oh, I'm trying to juggle like Bowden and the dog and doing activities, and and actually it'd be much easier if I just asked somebody if they could have the dog, because then that'd be
Yeah,
one less thing. But I don't. I try and like, oh no, I can do it. So yeah, if you've got friends or family members that you can call upon, then yeah, just ask them, because as in the same way that happened to you in school, people will be like, yeah, of course, yeah, we'll
I
help.
mean, I did. It's reminded me. I did it today. We're going over to my sister's on Christmas Eve, and I've got the kids on the night of the 23rd, and then Christmas Eve daytime, and then they're going back to their mum's Christmas Eve afternoon. And my sister was like, "Can you pick mum up and bring her along?" And I looked at it, and my mum lives in the centre of a really busy town. Like, it's really hard to get around. It's Bath, and like anyone that knows Bath knows the traffic is always a nightmare. And I just I didn't have to say, but I chose to say, do you know what? If I do that, the kids' day with me, a lot of it is going to be spent in the car going to pick mum up and drop her back. Do you mind getting mum? And she's like, yeah, fine. Yeah, fine. We'll
Yeah,
get mum. That's not a problem. Um,
yeah.
and all it took was for me to say, actually, can you do it? And she's like, yeah, fine. My mum, of course, is like, I'll get the bus. That's her voice doesn't sound like that. But she's like, don't worry about it. I'll get the bus. She's trying to sort her own problems out. And we don't want to get in the bus on Christmas Eve, of course. Um, but like, if I'd said, yes, I'll do it, which is what I normally would have done, that's putting my kids back a little bit, because their Christmas Eve is then spent sat on the
Yeah,
London road waiting to go and collect Nanny, when actually they'd rather be watching Christmas films or like
yeah, yeah.
pressing their presents and trying to work out what is this present that's under the tree with my name on it.
You
That's the
can't
stuff I want
please
them
all
to
the
be
people all the
doing.
time.
Oh, you're such a philosopher, Bradley.
And just to quote another great philosopher, where I heard this quote, do another name drop, because we'll get him on the show at some point. Um,
If it's Socrates, I'm going to have to disappoint you.
But no, one thing that's always stuck with me, and I sometimes I say this to lots of people actually. I heard Jordan North on the radio once,
Famous
a
philosopher.
famous philosopher Jordan North, and yeah, he said, oh, if you're everyone's cup of tea, you'd be a mug, and I love that. I
Oh,
love it because it's so true, and because I am a classic people pleaser. I try and do everything I can to help other people, and then sometimes I'm like I can be annoyed with myself because I'm like you have
yeah.
put yourself at the bottom of the list. You've been running around like a blue ass fly trying to keep everyone else happy, whereas if you just said no. Like actually, you might have had a nice day. So yeah,
I,
there's a good one.
do you know
So
what? I'm
so
going to fire another philosophy back at you.
yeah,
This is one that I heard. There's a philosophy and sociology network that you probably wouldn't have heard of. It's called Instagram. I don't know. Have you heard of that? It's only for the very well educated.
no.
And on this philosophy and sociology network, Instagram, I heard someone say, and I just think it works in every situation, that you can have anything you want, but you cannot have everything you want. I.e., you can have this, or you can have this. You cannot have both of them. You're gonna have to choose with so many things in life because
Yeah, I
there is
like
that
that.
whole idea of like idea of you can have everything, go and get it. And when people try that, like as you were doing, you exhaust yourself and you're half
Yeah,
dead. And you've got to think, no, I can have anything I want, literally anything I want, but I can't have everything I want.
so if
I
we,
can't have the really. Sorry, you carry on.
I was just going to say, if we take that back to where we first started the conversation, that whole like, I can spend a shed load of money on the kids, or I can give them all of my time and loads of amazing memories. Which one do you want to choose? And it's
Yeah,
like you said, I suspect if you were to ask, anyone listening, if you were to ask your kids, what'd you get for Christmas last year?
yeah, wouldn't know.
They might remember a couple of things. Maybe if they got something big and fancy or something that was really important to them at that time. But a lot of it they won't remember. But they will probably remember. When you say, you know, what did we go and watch at the cinema last year on Christmas Eve?
Yes,
Oh,
my kids
Willy,
definitely
Willy,
remember that stuff.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is what we went to watch, and
Oh,
so yeah, and I know that's a bit misguided because it costs you money to go to the cinema, but it's just one
yeah, but it's not
example.
as much, is it?
It's not, and we equally like. I love watching films with Bodes. It's a real thing that we do, and we do it like we do it a lot actually, a lot of nights, but it's certainly on a Sunday, and I love it because he snuggles up with me on the sofa, and we just chill and we watch this film, and
Well,
it's great.
anyone that sees the social media every now and again, me and the kids will do like a little reel where there's pizzas in the front of the shot. We have that's our Friday night pizza and movie tradition, where
Yeah,
there's a little pizza van in the village. We'll get two pizzas to share between the three of us, and the way I sort of referee it is that one of the kids picks two movies, and the other kid has to pick which of those two movies we watch. So it's like they both get a
nice.
choice of what we're actually watching, and I love it. I'm going to
Yeah,
give I'm going to give free trivia for the mental health listeners that is nothing to do with actual mental health. For the Willy Wonka, that recent one that had Timothy Chalamet in it. So the first bit is that, and this is very much off subject, but a load of it was filmed in Bath, and I went to watch it with the kids, and I was so tempted to be like, see that street there? My mate Les, he was sick in a bin just down there. Like, there's loads of bits that from like our nights out that you're like, oh, that's where Joe had his kebab thrown back at him. Someone nicked his kebab off him and threw it back. Anyway, so I watched it thinking that. But here's the other thing. This is like a little thing that absolutely blows my mind when they do this in the movies. Totally off the subject of mental health, but in the recent Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Timothée Chalamet that you would have gone to see, he has a
Chalamet.
hole in his pocket. Chalamet? That is
Chalamet.
it, isn't it?
We'll get it right
So
because then he's more likely to come on. You see.
yeah, he's definitely queuing up. He's got a hole in his pocket, right? Do you remember that bit near the start? He's got a hole in his pocket, and his money keeps falling out of his hole in his pocket. And he's down to his last coin, and he flips it in the air, and he catches it in his pocket. But then he doesn't see the coin falls out the hole in the bottom of his pocket, rolls across the street, and goes down into a drain. You might not remember that bit, but it does. In the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Charlie buys the golden ticket with a coin that he finds in a drain. And the idea being that it's that same coin has been almost put there deliberately by Willy Wonka years previously, as if he knew how the future was going to pan out, and Charlie finds that coin in that drain. I love it when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, you
No,
are. You are
no
a
relevance
fountain
to
of knowledge.
mental health whatsoever. No relevance to any self-help practices at all. But I just love stuff like that. But yeah, Willy Wonka lost a gold coin down a drain, and that same drain is where Charlie finds the gold coin to go. Anyway,
there we go.
That. One more thing I wanted to say, Bradley.
Yeah, go on.
And it's semi-serious, and it's that for the issues discussed in tonight's programme, any of the stuff that we've covered, there will be links in the show notes, as there always are, to services and charities and places you can go to get help over Christmas or at any time of year for the specific things that we've talked about. So there'll be one about financial help, and that won't be ring us up and we'll send you 10 grand. That stuff doesn't exist. But there's always advice about how you can manage your money, and if you're in debt, and if there's any kind of debt relief service that you might be eligible for. There'll be links in there to loneliness charities and talking charities like the Samaritans, who I think people think are just there for people that are literally on the ledge and they're phoning saying, I'm about to jump. It's not that. You can phone and say you're just feeling a bit down over Christmas. But there'll be links in the show notes about help for the issues that we've talked about. So go there and find that.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anything else from you, Bradders?
Not really. I think the only other thing, which you touched on a little bit about, people saying they're sort of drinking too much, and I think eating too much comes up as well. But yeah, I don't think there's anything major to that. I always say to people, like, actually just cut yourself some slack, like recognise that actually it is a particular point in the year where people do eat a bit more, and just allow yourself. Allow it to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna embrace this. I'm gonna enjoy it, and I'm not gonna go total full slob mode. I'm gonna go out for a walk and this and that and the other. But yeah, don't worry about it. Embrace it, and if you're conscious around your weight, then just try and stay balanced and recognise that actually, get through this period, and maybe that's the time to focus on it, perhaps more so than now.
And I'll tell you what I'd finish with, and both of us are fathers, as we've discussed, and Christmas often is a time for children, which might actually exacerbate mental health problems for people that don't have kids and feel very much on their own. But if you are a parent, try to live your Christmas as an example to your kids, because the last thing I want is my kids to feel under pressure when they become parents, if they become parents, to buy mountains and mountains of presents for their kids. I could stop that pressure right now by buying a reasonable amount of presents for my kids. The same with, you were talking about with what people eat over the festive period. You could put your kids under immense pressure by just saying, like, well, you mustn't have like more than one celebration from the box because your teeth will rot and your eyes will fall out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We don't need to give our kids those issues. And if we can relax, that's probably the key word. If we can relax, if we can connect with the people around us, if we can enjoy Christmas for what it is, then I think we can be that example to our kids and hope that they can enjoy Christmas in the same way. Whereas if we put ourselves under tremendous pressure to have the perfect Christmas and to mask everything, then we put our kids under that same pressure. And no parent wants to do that. So that would be my finishing note.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That's way better. That's way better than my point. Yeah, I think
They
that's
always
nice.
are, Brad.
I yeah, I hadn't thought about the pressure sort of filtering down actually. So that's
It
that's a good
totally
one.
does, though,
I
doesn't
like
it?
that. I
It
like
totally does.
oh, go on.
Go on, carry on. It's all right.
I was just going to say one of the things it made me think of was I think particularly when kids are young and there's all that excitement around the presents, they want to just tear off the paper and find out what's in there, don't they? And then it can be a little bit like, okay, next one, what's in there?
Yeah,
And that kind of railroad. And I always remember kind of slowing that down, and I think that's quite a good one. And be like, whoa.
Let's appreciate this.
Before you tear that open, who's it actually from? Oh, cool! It's from that person, right? That's amazing that they've sent something to you, isn't it? And just that whole generating that appreciation for stuff. And so again, it's not about the amount of stuff; it's the fact that people have thought about you. And I think that's something that now Bowden's pretty good with. He's like, oh, that's cool. That I've got, because he spotted something under the tree, and he's like, oh, who's that from? And it's like, oh yeah, that's from this person. It's like, oh cool, it's quite nice just to encourage that appreciation and that gratitude. And it was something that I really noticed on Halloween actually. We'd been out trick or treating, and it was lovely, and we bumped into lots of really nice people. And Bowden came back with a big bag full of swag, and but then when we got home, then we had quite a few trick or treaters come to our door, and Bowden came in after he'd been given sweets out, because I was letting him open the door and dish out the treats and stuff like that. But he actually said to me, he was like, I really like it. I really like giving the sweets out, Dad. And it's just That's nice, isn't it? So
Yeah.
It's about just keeping everybody grounded, I suppose. It's for us to stay grounded and try and stay relaxed, and then that will be mirrored in the kids as well. So yeah, I mean, look, it's a time we're supposed to be enjoying ourselves, isn't it? So let's all stop putting so much pressure on ourselves. Let's just relax, enjoy the little moments, the little laughs, the silly jokes, the silly things that happen, the little smiles, the like somebody asleep on the sofa. Let's enjoy all of that stuff and stop putting so much pressure on ourselves.
Hear, hear, Brad. God rest you, merry gentlemen. And other Christmas songs. But let's have God rest you, merry gentlemen as our theme for Christmas. Of like, listen, ye merry gentlemen, God rest.
Good. Good.
Yeah, grand. Well, thanks everyone for listening to Mental Health Takeaways. We will be back. Are we just releasing back in the new year? Is that when we're coming back with a bang?
We'll be back in the new year. We will be back with a bang. You've mentioned Eddie, who's going to be our first guest on the show for 2025. And it's a great guest. So we are going to take some time to just chill out a little bit ourselves, because we've been very busy, trying to bring this podcast to you. So we're going to take a bit of time to chill, but not too long.
I'm hoping the listeners will recognise that this episode, even though we haven't edited it yet, is going to be more or less unedited because it's Christmas. Because we've got other things to do, I think we're more or less just going to record it, release it. I'll put some jingle bells in here and there or whatever to just make it feel festive.
A jingle bell.
But normally, Brad and I spend a lot of time and effort trying to make it a polished product for you, the listener. This time of year, you get what you're given.
Maybe you should put a jingle. You should put a jingle bell for every and ah, and every time we say and then no one would actually be able to hear the show anyway. It'd just be jingle bells all the way through.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, Yes, listeners, we know we do it. You don't get half of it because
I'm over it.
We edit it all out, so you don't get the half of it. But
for you, we do it for you.
So
do you ever
forgive
say thank
us.
you?
if it's not all edited out this time. Well,
Yeah,
look, let's tell everyone to have a very Merry Christmas, to enjoy everything about it, not get too extreme, and we'll be back in the new year, kicking off with Eddie, and then loads more great shows coming in 2025.
Absolutely that.
Ta-da! Ta-da! Merry Christmas.